if you want to target fish like this, then meat is an absolutely deadly bait. It's coming into spring, it's starting to warm up, and now fish like this are on the feed, and meat is one of the best ways of catching them. In this video today, I'm going to show you everything you need to know about catching fish like this short on meat. So let's get straight into the rigs then. I've got 3 different rigs set up. So what I'll do, I'll show you my, I think it's that one, yeah. This is going to be like my all-round rig. So I've got some short kits on it because in this canal, the carp will try and do you under the bank and into the far back, so I don't want to give them too much elastic. So what I've got a short kit there. I've got some nice white hydro, some 017 mainline there, 2 little back shots, quite a short little lash between tip and float because I want to just be like lifting on those little dinks. Got some of my favourite floats on there. That's a 0.3 bobby, carbon bobby, that one. Blacked him out lovely, you can see him beautifully. And then really simple, just to start with, I'm going to go for, I've just got a little block of 9s there, 12 inches from the hook, and then 6 inches below that I've got one number 9 dropper, and then I've got 5 inches of 013 and a 16's SLWG. That's going to be my like starting rig. With this method, what you'll find is you'll catch a little bit of everything, like your big silverfish, your skimmers and all that sort of stuff. So probably like early in the session we might nick an odd carp. I'm expecting quite a few sort of skimmers and stuff to start, and as we get into the session a little bit later on, the carp will hopefully turn up. So that's going to be like our kind of all-round rig. We'll get carp out on that quite comfortably as long as we take our time, but at the same time we get all our skimmers and an odd big-eyed, everything else as well on this rig. So next up, I've got a very similar rig again, just everything's just a little bit more beefed up. So I've got grey hydro this time, a little bit more power. Again, 017 mainline. That short little lash, 2 micro cubes there, number 9s. Same float, 0.3, all the way down. Same shorting pattern, a little bulk. Number 9 dropper, 5 inch, but that's 015, and I've got a Kaizen on there, 14 Kaizen, which is really nice for fishing meat. One of my, well, my favourite carp hook of all time, that one. That is just an absolute magnificent bit of kit. Quite fine wires, but you'll be amazed how strong they are. I've caught some huge weights on these hooks. When I caught 401 pound at Larford, mugging with maggots. I used a 14's Kaizen that day, and I caught 401 pound, and I only changed my hook once. So that just goes to show you. People look at them, think they're a little bit fine, but trust me, they're not. And then last of all, this is going to be more for our line in front of us, where we're going to throw a little bit of meat in. Later on in the session, I think you might get an odd fish coming up off bottom. So what I've got there, I've gone for white hydro, because those skimmers are notorious for it on here, like catching them sort of on the drop. 017 mainline, a little bit of a longer lash on that one, just so I can flick past my feed a little bit. This time I got a 0.2 bobby, and then all I've got then is, you know, not super negative, it's strung out with 10s. So I've just like shirt button style 10s down the rig from probably 2/3 of the way the rig has got these. 013 hook length, 16's SLWG, again 5 inch hook length. So that's the 3 rigs we got. I'm expecting to use that strung out rig on our short line where we're going to be throwing a little bit of meat, but I've plumbed up another line to my left which is the same depth as short, just out of the way a little bit just so I can rest my short line, and that's just going to be about tapping a little bit of meat in, fishing with a bulk and 1 dropper like tight over a little pile of meat. So that's the rig sorted. Let's have a quick look how we're going to feed it and where we're going to fish. Okay, so when it comes to feeding, I've got a couple of little different pots here. I've got our 100ml pot as well, if you need a big pot. And the other way of feeding is obviously going to be throwing it by hand. So let's have a quick look at the pot. This is the pot I tend to use on this lake all the time. It's just a perfect amount of meat. That's a Guru small pot. And what I do, I just fill it up and just push the meat in with my thumb, and I know that's about the exact amount of feed you want just to pick off an odd fish, which is going to be the way we're going to catch them hopefully on our left hand line. If the fish is really good, or there's a lot of like nuisance fish about and you feel as if there's not enough bait to get into the bottom, I've also got a medium Guru. And then another way I found really good on here is like dump potting meat and going straight in over it. You know, there's not enough bait in the kinder pot, so I got a 100ml pot there. I'm not going to feed 100ml, but I'd probably feed between 50 and 70 mil of meat, just bosh it in, straight in over the top. You'll be amazed how quick you can get a bite off a great big carp. That's a deadly, deadly way of doing it. And then finally, the humble hand is the last way. So on our short line, we'll be starting tapping a little bit of meat in there, but through the session, we're going to start throwing a little bit of meat, getting some more traction, and then hopefully we can really line them up on that line last going off. So let's have a look where in the peg we're going to fish, and then we can actually get on with some lovely fishing. So let's get on with it. Right, so one of the most important things with fishing this method is where you fish it. Now, fishing with meat tends to lend itself to fishing quite close to yourself. In and around the near slope seems to be a really good area to target. Wherever you go, you know, be it big open water lakes like Larford, they catch on meat short there, White Acres, Tunnelbarn Farm, here at White Springs, everywhere. That short line is absolute money for the meat line. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you. This lake hasn't really got much of a shelf, whereas some others have got quite steep shelves, but there is a little bit of a shelf. So what I tend to do, what I'm looking for is just that little bit where it flattens off. I don't want to be like too much on the shelf, because obviously unless your rig is right on the money, you can be off an inch or over depth. I just want to get them to settle up at the bottom of that shelf, make them a little bit easier to catch, less foul hookers. So I'm just going to pop a little plummet on this rig now. And what I know about this canal is, obviously, like most of the canals, if you go to tunnel or wherever, it's deepest down the middle, and as you come back to yourself, you can find the bottom of that shelf. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drop the plummet in down the middle of the canal. So I'm out there, I'm out into the lake, and because I've already plumbed this up, I'm like a body over depth there, which is perfect. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to keep coming back towards myself until I find that shelf. So just come back a little bit there. Very similar. Very similar. Yeah, still the bottom of the body. And there you are. So I've just come back that much now. And the float is just coming out of the water more and more. Which is perfect, really. So where I've decided to fish, I've got a little bit of, you can see there, swing my pole round, just got my little bit of white tape, pole tape there, just to mark the section, and that little bit of white tape is just in line with the end of my knee when I'm plumbing up. So I'm just going to go to where I've decided to fish. We're about money there now. So that's the plumbing up. Both lines are plumbed up exactly the same. I've got my little short line in front of me. It's not too far that I can't throw my meat in and, you know, keep it really tight, but also it's not like off the end of my toenails where it's harder to line fish up. If you can catch them a little bit further away from yourself, you can like keep them in your swim a little bit longer. So that's that line there. The other line we've got is the exact same depth at 11 meters, but just in front of the next pallet. You know, it's basically like if you sat the next peg fishing short there, but it's just away from myself. I'm just going to tap a little bit of bait in there, and that's going to be a line where I can just nick in every now and then, catch one or two, and then just drop back short, and then it's just a case of rotating lines, and then we can really get a nice net of fish going. So, like I said earlier on, we're going to start feeding with just our little cup. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to bait up a minute actually. I'm just going to, what I'll do, I'll hook that hook just onto the elastic, and then all I'm going to do is just with my little pot, just got my bait box there, I'm just going to fill my little pot up right to the top of meat, just like that. Push it in with my thumbs, which just sits in there nice. And I'm going to feed that much on my short line in front of me, and then I'm going to ship up there. I'm going to tap that much in on my other line. So I'll just line up with my far bank marker there. Got on my tape's on my knee, and then just turn it over. Just give it a tap. Tap our meat, it's all come out there lovely. Probably, I don't know, 12 pieces of meat there. And then same again on my other line. Exactly the same, push it in the same. Just push them in with your thumb like that, stop it all bouncing out everywhere. To bounce everything out. There's a few carp moving around, so the carp are definitely active. It's the right time of year now. Got my little post over there. I'll just dunk my pot, let some water get to it, and then just a little tap, and out it comes. Beautiful. Oh, there's a carp. So that's our initial feed's done. What I'm going to do straight away, I'm just going to drop it on this line. I won't throw anything now straight away. What I'll do, I'll just see what happens. If I'm not getting many signs and I feel like I need to, draw some fish in, I'll start throwing a little bit. But as long as I'm catching a few on the cup, I'll just keep it as that. And then obviously later on the session, we'll look to throw a little bit of meat and hopefully really get them lined up short, which will be absolutely magnificent. So let's bait up and drop in. Right, so I'm going to bait up now. I'm not going to put any more bait in my cup because we've only just fed it. I'm just going to pick out a nice cube of meat, nice piece of 6mm meat to start. That 16 SLWG is just perfect for that. You can just sort of push it inside, but at the same time it's big enough to keep it on. You see the point is just there. So let's drop in here. Hopefully it won't be too long before we get some kind of response. So I'm just onto my little bit of tape. Because I've only got a bulk on one, I'm not worried about letting it come through the water. I'm just going to lay it out. I'm not going to flick out into the lake, I'm just going to lay it out just slightly past so it just comes back in. I'm on my tape. Got a nice little short lash so I can hold it right over that little pile of meat we put in. Float is shotted absolutely beautifully. Nice black top. So let's just see. You'll find the meat is a brilliant way to start your match a lot of the time. You can just tap a few pieces of meat in and you can catch straight away on it, before you have to sort of go venturing around your peg looking for other things. There we go. Feels like a carp, and this is why I use a short kit on here. Because if you can see by that there, all that fish wants to do is get back into my feet. There he goes, look. See there now, bye. And that's often the response you get early doors on the meat. Your first fish will often be a carp. Just before I had that fish, I had a couple of little indications, not straight, unless it absolutely fires under like that bite did there then, just ignore them. If it pulls your rig out of position, just lift your rig out to float length and drop it back in. You've got them back shots there to help you. So, we've only got 0.13 on here, so it's not a case of ragging his head off now. Let's just try and make him count. Here's a nice fish. Oh yeah, it's a lovely fish. There we go. And that is what meat fishing is all about. Oh, it's a nice fish that. Still right. Whoa man, that's like a tuna. Hooked lovely in the top lip. Let's just try and hold him up because he is so lively. I don't want to risk dropping him. Whoa, whoa, bye, whoa, bye, whoa, bye, whoa. There you go. Early season meat fishing. So he goes back. Hang on now. There. So the next thing I'm thinking of now is like I want to treat that line down there like similar to this one, so I'll be able to read off this one when to feed that one. So what I'm going to do now, because I've had that fish, I'm going to pot a little bit of meat in there again, exactly like at the start. Pot a bit of meat in there, pot a bit of meat there, then drop back in on the shorter line. So let's get the lines fed, and then hopefully we can nick another 2 or 3 on the short line before we... That was an absolute screeching bite. And I tell you what I noticed then when I hooked that, and you might see it on the other camera, is I absolutely glitched into that fish and 3 other bow waves actually shot out of my peg. And I'd never really had any signs before that. It's amazing, like they're in there. Oh, look at this thing going. This is where you just want a couple of sections. Oh, was he coming back? Is he? Just chuck a few sections on, just follow him down there, because some of these ones you catch on the meat here are absolute G units. I think what I'm going to do, you get this one, well try to, I'm going to put my carp rig on, just because it's a little bit too hairy with this lighter elastic. Don't seem to be many skimmers there, so I think we'll be able to get away with just fishing that little bit heavier. Getting back to the top kit. Keep it all nice and low. Hopefully he's had his little bit of fun now, and then we can... Oh yeah, that's an absolute... Oh, it's a beast. Now these are the fish you catch on the meat. They absolutely love meat. No, like, we sort of just coming out of that cold spell now. There's a few buds on the trees, which is a telltale sign the meat's going to start working. Just as everything just starts going green. I don't want him to break me because he's a lovely fish. And just keep your eye out on like match results. What I always do is I always tend to like use Tunnel Barn Farm. Keep an eye on that place. Well, like when meat starts working there, it works everywhere. And I know I spoke to my mate Steve Parry on the phone last week, and he'd been to Tunnel Barn on a 2-dayer and caught an absolute boatload of fish on meat. So that just tells you the time has come. So let's just take our time, try and get this, because this is a beautiful fish. Oh yeah, that's a good fish. And they are notorious fighters in this canal, so look at them, look, he's off like a prom dress down there again. Oh, he's gonna break me. Oh, tell you what. Just when you think you've got him, they go absolute ape drop-ins again. But the bites are so nice on this method. Just absolute fire under. They make you jump, they go under so quick. And I really feel like after hooking that carp and those other couple of bow waves out the peg, I feel like throwing a little bit of meat and picking up that little light rig just falling through. That could be something special, but I'll keep that for the end of the session. How are you going to behave this time? It's a lovely fish, that is. Just put the pressure on him a bit now. There he is. We got him. Oh, there you are, proper carp. Oh, boy. That is an extraordinary looking carp, that one. Again, nailed right in the top lip, which is lovely. He was never, well, the hook was never pulling out, put it like that. Oh, let's try and hold him up. And that is what it's all about. So, time to make a change then. Change from that little lighter rig. I'm going to put our carp rig on. That's the beauty of having two set up. Just a case of picking the other one up. Everything's the same apart from a stronger hook length, a bigger hook and stronger elastic. So it means you don't have to get off your box and change your top kits around and all that. It's there ready to go. But what I'm going to do again is going to pot some meat in there, pot some meat in up there, drop back short, hopefully catch another before we have to move. So let's get another then. Right, so we've changed the rig over, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take my time, because with that cut that I've got, you do get an odd, just slightly bigger piece of meat, which is probably like 7 to 8 mil, just to, you know, hide this hook in there. There you are, that's a perfect size piece, probably like an 8 mil size piece, that is. I've already fed it, so I don't need to worry about that in a minute. And there you are, even with that big 14s Kaizen, just hidden lovely in that meat. Same shortening pattern, put that out on one. Let's just see if we can nick another here. that rig straightened out. Not worried about letting it fall through or anything at the minute. There we go. And just about typical, we put the carp rig on a quarter skimmer. So, well, that's your almost like your bycatch really, but you'd be surprised they'll add up come the end of the session. So we waited quite a while for that fish, to be honest. So what I'm thinking now, I'm going to start throwing this line now. I just feel as if we've had a mega good start to that pot, 2 big carp early doors. The pot's sort of done what we wanted it to do. It's about trying to build the peg up now and get some fish in there. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to start throwing meat there. So I'm going to ship out to get my eye in to start on the mark, and I'm going to throw sort of, I don't know, 2, 4, 6 or 8 pieces in twice. So I just line up with my mark, throw them in nice and accurate, and I'm just going to keep doing that sort of every 5 or 6 minutes. Just throw 2 lots of meat in there, try and build it up, and we're going to have a look on our little sniper line off to the left. Right, so time to have a look on our left hand line, just to give this little line just a chance to rest. I'm going to stick on that carp rig for a minute, and if we catch a skimmer or two, then I'll change it back to the other rig. But now I've got my eye in on our line there, I just sort of know where I'm going to be throwing my meat. I'm just going to, a couple of bits of meat just before I ship down there. I'm going to fill my little pot up like we've been doing. Pack it in there. And let's just see if we can just nick an odd fish here, and then when we come back on our line in front of us where we just be throwing a bit of meat, there might be a few more fish just lined up, because I just feel like it took too long to catch that last skimmer. So I'll just tap that in. There's an aeroplane, no, a helicopter going overhead now, so a bit of noise here. Nicely in line with my far back marker there. Got a helicopter here, and I've got ducks going mental to my right. So let's just see if we fed this a couple of times this line, so hopefully there'll be a fish or 2 just mooching about there. But it's not going to be too long before we hook a carp. But again, I'm just going to sit nice and tight, wait for those clean, like fire underbites. There we go. There we go. Just that little bit of extra bait. That was a gorgeous bite. That was just fired under. Not an indication or anything before it. Just sort of fired down the hole. And we've got another good carp on. Just chugging along along the camera somewhere. This is what you've got to watch in here. Look, he's trying to get in that edge there, that fish. You're not going in there, boys, you can forget about it. Oh, that's a big boy again. Oh, that's a big one. You're not going under the bank. You can forget about that before you even think about it. So let's try and get this one back towards us. That's where this line is like nice, just sort of, you might not catch millions on it, but just gives you somewhere to go once you're just building that shorter line up. And hopefully, come the end of the session, we'll have some fish really lined up short where we just throw in our meat in, maybe even pick that little strung up rig. So that would be nice if we can catch them maybe even through the water, because you know, now the temperature's quite nice. I've seen an odd carp like mouthing on the top, so it doesn't take much for them to want to come up. Especially like the spring, the first bit of warmth you have, you know, they'll want to come up. I just heard one sucking on the grass then. Where's he going? So what I can do, once I got the pole there, you know, it's been 6 or 7 minutes since we last fed that line, so just a bit of meat again. No, don't have to be on a 10 pence piece. that. I'll throw a bit more meat again. So it'll be one of them big uns again, like the last fish we had. I'll break down twice for this one, just in case he charges off on us again. We just love boring in underneath your feet on this lake. Come on, boy. There he is. It's big old common again. There we go. That is lovely. Another good fish. Such a £7 again. Not quite as big as I thought, but he had a good go with that one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have another go. What I might actually do this time, and put that medium guru pot on, so I'm going to pop off this little one, and then on with that one. Maybe I just need a bit more bait just to pull them in. So let's just see how that pans out. Just slide that little bead back down and slip somehow. There we go. A little bit of bait on that short line again. Really want to start looking to build that up now for a good finish. So after a couple of fish on that left hand line, I think it's time to come off that. And I've just been throwing some meat short, and I've seen an odd fish blow on it, so I'm keen to drop in there now. I'm just going to keep on with my carp rig at the minute, and if we start getting a few signs and a few fish off bottom, I'll pick up that little strung out rig. So I'm just going to give another little blow there, in line with my marker, put my rig in, a few bits of meat on the float. Let's see if we can line a few up here just to finish off on. There we go, it's a bite straight away. Nice big skimmer. It's a lovely wallop under of a bite, that one. Nice fish, nice wheat builders. So what I'm going to do now, I've got a couple of skimmers, so I'm just going to pick up my slightly lighter rig. Might be a case of we'll have a few skimmers now early doors, just before those carp come back into the peg. So let's just try the slightly lighter rig again, lighter elastic. Pop my rig in line with my marker. A few bits of meat. Probably 10 cubes of meat or so there. Nice and accurate with the feed. Let's see if I'll fire under for us again. I'll probably hook a carp now that I've put this lighter rig back on, but I feel like we're going to have a little run of skimmers, and then last knock is I think those carp will come back. Right, so I've just thrown that meat in there twice, and if my body and my float stuck up out the water, there's a fish obviously not on the bottom there, so I'm gonna not waste any time. I'm just gonna pick up this lighter rig, because obviously there's some fish up off the bottom Nice cube of meat. Let's try this rig, yeah. So with this rig now, I'm just gonna, with the last one, I sort of just put it straight down. I'm gonna lay it out into the lake, let it fall through. Got a bit of a longer lash, so I can fish just past my feet as well if I want to. Oh, that's our light rig fuel. Look, just that took it on the drop. That fish, nicely hooked, top lip, and that's the difference with the rigs. I can put this rig on now, and if I'd missed a bite, dropped in, caught that one on the drop. So like this middle bit of the session might be a case of just building a weight to them silverfish. Not doing that. That's how not to do it. So, here we go again. Rig out into the lake. A bits of meat. See if I'll fire under again. Carp. I like the rig, so now that I've hooked that, I'm just gonna a bit of meat. Hold on to this one. It's trying to pull me off my box. What I'll do is pull the pole up high, stop him from running, whiz him back. So they're just from two different rigs, massive difference in the catch rate, and that's just from the rigs. That's without, you know, throwing that little bit of meat in. I'm not throwing loads in now. I'm sort of just throwing like 4 or 5 pieces twice, not leathering it in, just a little bit of bait falling through. And this is the kind of thing that normally just gets better and better and better as you're building it. More fish, more competition. Stop going down there, you. Ooh. Even though when I'm playing this, I'm still going to flick a little bit of meat in there. Nice fish. There we go. Nice big fat, juicy carp. Hooked. Oh yeah, good fish. Dropping that in. Right, we'll just rinse and repeat now for a little bit more. There we go. Just on the drop again, that was. Even if they don't sort of take it on the way down, I think they just see it falling past them and just follow it to the bottom. It's a lovely way of casting with this little rig. What you got to watch with these is they will try and break you if they can. So as I'm playing that now, I'm just going to flick a few more bits of meat just around the spot. Set it. If I keep catching carp on this, I think what I'll do is just pop that grey hydro on this. I've got another top kit with some grey in it. And put 0.15 hook length on because it's a little bit too hairy for my liking, just doing it like this. Good fish. brilliant bit of fishing when you catch them on this rig. Never good unluck. All them big stampers have been absolutely drop-ins in the net. Whoa, no. Whoa, bite, whoa, bite, whoa. Put him straight back because he's absolutely full of beans. So now, after that like early start on that little pot was brilliant, got us a few early fish off both our lines. But like I said, this line's like just about building it up. We've gone in, caught a skimmer or two to start with, which I expected. And now our last two fish have been nice, two nice big carp. So I'm just going to carry on as it is for now. But what I'm going to make sure I keep doing is lifting my rig out and laying it back in. I don't want it to sit there for too long, you know, still. There's a ghosty there. There's a great big ghosty there mouthing off the top. Just tried to mug him and made a mess of it. So, same again, just lay that rig in. Bit of meat. Lots of meat. I'm just trying to keep it my side if possible. That means when I flick my rig out, my meat is the furthest bit of meat back. So any fish that are just sat away are going to grab my hook bait first. So let's see if we can catch one. I'm not going to give it too long before I lift and drop or lay the rig back in. Let's see if that one will go now. Oh, what was it like? Turkey plate. Cracking like that. Yes. Looked inside the mouth that one. Lots of meat now. Kick my rig out. Just flick it in. Past. Let it swing in. Giving yourself a couple of bites of the cherry there, like on the drop, on the settle, and then you can still, sit there with it static on the bottom and catch one. So, really versatile rig this is. But the conditions have got to be right, like today it's nice and calm, you can fish like little floats and that. If it was, ripping a gale, you'd be struggling to fish like this. Oh, that was a proper bite. To that time, just sort of sat there for a little while and then just fired under with another carp. So I think what we're going to do, we'll finish up on this fish. We've had a brilliant day, we've had a pile of carp, probably had 20 odd pound of like good big silver fish in amongst. And in all honesty, I've probably fed 3/4 of a tin of meat, literally nothing. So it just goes to show you the pulling power of this method. But don't forget, 2 different rigs, that little Balkan one was brilliant, early doors. With our little pot, just tapping a little bit in, being nice and patient. We caught like 4 or 5 doing that early off 2 different lines. And then when I decided to change this one to throw in, I think we've had the best run because we've had more skimmers and we've had a few more carp as well. So I hope there's plenty in there that can inspire you to get out, do a bit of meat fishing. It's cheap as chips. A tin or 2 will do you, with 3 quid or so worth of bait. A couple of little rigs and a short pole, and you can catch an absolute pile of fish on it. Let's take our time, make sure this one counts. Feels a big one again, that. Now that is what we're after. So, there you are. As if you needed any more proof how deadly of a baked meat is, you just lay that out the way. That, in my book, the proof of a pudding is in the eating, as they say. And at the minute, they're eating meat.